Now, extreme views about women, we expect that from some of the terrorist groups. We expect that from people who don't want to live in the modern world. But it's a little hard to take coming from Republicans who want to be the President of the United States.
Hillary Clinton angered a lot of Republicans this week with her comparison of GOP presidential candidates to, as you heard, terrorists. The inflammatory comments come at a tumultuous time for the Clinton campaign. Questions surrounding Clinton's email use during her tenure as Secretary of State are, of course, clouding her bid. And turnout at campaign events seems unusually low considering her frontrunner status, especially to some. Josh Kraushaar is National Journal political editor. Josh, we'll get to the popularity later. First, in terms of what we see is almost sort of a new, I want to say, anger and defensiveness that's coming from Hillary Clinton. It seems as though she's trying to almost take a page out of Donald Trump's playbook and hit back and use really inflammatory language.
Well, it's not a coincidence of the timing of these remarks that she's trying to play to the base at a time when there's some real worry in Democratic Party circles about the email scandal, about the popularity and energy behind her supporters to her campaign. This is a way to attack Republicans in the most polarizing manner possible, to get the base back on board and to really tamp down talk about Joe Biden possibly entering this Democratic presidential primary.
All right, we'll see how fired up the base is in a minute. But I also wanted to point out this exchange she had yesterday with R. Henry. Take a listen.
Were you aware that your husband wanted to give paid speeches to repressive regimes like North Korea? Do you have any comment on these new emails that have raised questions about conflict of interest involving your aide, Huma Abedin? And finally, I wonder if you've said there's nothing unique about this situation. You've said that before. Can you name one other cabinet secretary who had their own server?
Well, let me answer one of your questions because I think that's what you are entitled to.
Ooh, that's what you're entitled to. Is she? She's not president yet.
She's had trouble answering questions, not just from Ed Henry, but from almost every reporter that's been pressing her on the server, and really a steady stream of revelations that haven't been positive to her campaign. That's not the tone you want to strike when you have tough questions being asked of you. The goal of answering questions from the press yesterday was to sort of tamp down on the
constant
scrutiny.
It seems to be being antagonistic doesn't seem to be getting in her anywhere.
When there's smoke, there's fire, and she's only making the fuel worse.
This is a page out of the Clinton playbook, if you will. I mean, she was the one who has talked about the vast right-wing conspiracy against my husband back during the Monica Lewinsky scandal and those kinds of things. Are the Clintons best when they're playing defense? Is that what she's trying to go back to?
That's part of the strategy, but that was 25 years ago. The media market has changed in the last couple of decades.
So what worked 25 years ago isn't working now.
It's a dated playbook, and having folks like James Carville and a lot of her old allies from the 1990s operate under that slower media cycle of generations of years past isn't as effective, and she's finding that out the hard way as she's learning when she's giving she's answering these questions at press conferences and not getting the response she wants.
Well, she's not getting the response she wants from the press or at press conference. She's also not getting the response she wants from the polls. Take a look at the latest polls showing Hillary Clinton's popularity as it compares, say, to Bernie Sanders. May 28th, 57%. Now, 45%. Those are the latest numbers we have. I mean, she's falling precipitously. Joe Biden's coming up in the polls. And R. Ed Henry pointed out this. Take a look at some of the pictures he's taken at some of her rallies. She is the front runner, was at one point considered the runaway front runner, the inevitable candidate. The crowds are half empty. People aren't that enthusiastic, whereas Bernie Sanders is getting 20,000 people, Trump's getting 30,000 people. Is she sort of all hat and no cattle when it comes to support?
Well, I think there are two different things to separate: for the Democratic nomination and the general election viability. For the Democratic nomination, she's still the favorite. Bernie Sanders is not going to be the Democratic nominee, even though he's tapping into the base.
But people aren't excited about her. They're excited about him.
The real interesting factor is Joe Biden. And the reason Joe Biden is looking at this campaign is because he's seen those same numbers that you've been reporting on and that we've all been seeing. And he sees her as a possible weak candidate in a general election against whoever the Republicans nominate. And there's a lot of worry in Democratic Party circles that this email scandal, the way she's been answering the questions in a very tenured type of way, is hurting her ability to win a general election. Joe Biden might give her some real heartburn in a primary because he might be viewed as the more electable Democrat. And if she's seen as weaker in a general, Joe Biden might win some of that support.
Josh Kraushaar, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot to report on this story. We appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Leland.
Thanks. Good to have you.